Fillers are shit. Nobody likes them, do they? Creators put them in spaces either to save time for building up the actual story, or they just want to keep the episode count relatively balanced. It doesn't matter. Fillers add nothing. And speaking of fillers, I imagine you have trouble filling your mod slots. Let me paint a picture for you. One day you're chilling at the relay with your buddies, and in the middle of a topic they start ridiculing you for your lack of performance. And you're like, what do you mean? And they're like, well dude, your girlfriend who's a Trinity mops the fucking floor with the enemy. She's looking around the huge ass gun that looks like a dildo for aliens carrying your sorry basic bitch Baltor Lex Orthos having ass. And you're delusional. Oh, stop it, guys. Trinity always tells me I'm decent enough for an MR4. And besides, it's not the size of the gun that counts, it's how you build it. And one of them's like, bitch, please, let me see them builds. What the fuck is... Guys, look at this. It's not the size of the gun, it's how you use it. Oh my god. Oh my god. And overall, you have concluded that these friends are not friends worth having, and you leave. You go home and see Trinity isn't back home from work yet. It's midnight and you're now fed up, and decide to go to her last known location, which was in Cetus. You ask around, and a few said they saw her going to the plains with 3 dudes when the sun set. You rush through the gate, and sure enough you find her, with 3 dudes hunting an Eidolon. And holy shit, these dudes were fucking built! Not only were they built, they were performing like you would never believe. Never have you seen Trinity work so synchronously. She took care of 3 dudes, dude. And one of them even had all 3 Umbra mods on at the same time. All that talk about you being decent enough for an MR4. Does that sting? It should. And that's why you must take builds seriously. Most would dismiss that scenario as just an example of toxicity in the Warframe community. You know what I say? Get good! So if that scenario hits a bit close to home, welcome to Warframe Stigma. Cause if there's any stigma worth talking about, it's building inefficiently. Warframes. Before we begin, if you do not have an Orokin reactor, I suggest you do Nightwave challenges. Do enough of them, and you'll eventually accumulate enough Nightwave currency to purchase some blue and gold potatoes. Now assuming you have one installed, let's examine the starter frame vault. So, how do we make a build that's less messy than the Grenier gene pool? Well, let's see. He has a measly 15 armor. Perhaps you're thinking, I'll just give him more armor with steel fiber. Wrong. The average Warframe armor rating is like 100, I'd say. But even then, it's not worth investing an armor mod into. If a maximum steel fiber gives 110% extra armor, then it'll only give Vault a total of 31. Armor is typically only worth investing in if your Warframe has more than 150. Instead, just slap on Vitality and or Redirection, and you should be good for a while. But you'll eventually come to understand that health pool mods are not good compensation for actual performance. This isn't getting good, it's getting safe. But don't worry, you can do both at the same time. Let's examine Vault's abilities. See that there are various factors to each of them, which can be modded for. the four main factors to be modded are efficiency, as in how much energy needs to be used up just to perform an ability. Then duration, how long an ability or an ability's effect lasts. Then range, the radius or distance of an ability/effect. And lastly, strength, how powerful an ability is at doing its job. And if you're feeling good about your build, you can always add flow, which increases your energy pool. Vault sure as hell needs it. To be honest, efficiency is likely going to go into all of your builds as it makes life a heck of a lot easier. There are various mods of each type that can be farmed for. There are the standard ones, the corrupted mods, the set mods from Cetus bounties, and even the nightmare mod Constitution from nightmare modes. But since you're new, you're probably going to focus on the standard and set mods. Building Warframes will depend heavily on which abilities you plan on getting the most mileage out of. There's three primary ways to build Vault. You can build him for a speed ability, dumping as much ability strength and duration as possible so he can go fast and last. I know what I said. He can make a defensive approach with Electric Shield. He can have up to 6 of them up at any given time. Spam them around a defense objective, and you have yourself a fort. Build for duration. And lastly, you can go full offense and build for discharge. Have you ever just wanted to drop a nuke on a bunch of enemies? Well, discharge is the build for you. Go for strength and range, with a little sprinkle of duration. One last point. You're gonna want to always have an aura mod on your Warframe. It's a special mod that modifies not only your performance, but everyone else's on the team. And not only that, it actually adds mod capacity instead of filling it up. So having one gives you more to work with, and double that if the slot has a matching polarity. The main ones cycle weekly in the Nightwave cred shop. Pick a few if you have enough cred. Weapons. Oh god damn it, weapons. That's like the hardest... I can do this. Well, the biggest stigma about weapons is the damage system, so I'm just gonna ignore much of it to make things easier on you, my students. Why? Well, there's 12 different health pools that respond differently to 13 different types of damage with 13 different status effects from those types. But fortunately, there are a few catch-alls, so I'll dumb it down for you. Overall, there are 3 health pool types and a few subtypes to them: health, armor, and shields. Armor mitigates health damage, and shields are an overcoating. Grineer have armor on top of health, Corpus have shields on top of health, and Infested have only health. At the start of the game, you're introduced to the 3 types of physical damage: impact, puncture, and slash, otherwise known as IPS for short. At this point, you are likely also aware of elemental damage: cold, electricity, heat, and toxin. And what even fewer of you know now is that those elements combine into compound elements: blast, corrosive, gas, magnetic, radiation, and viral. I'll simply have you ignore most of them. You may wish to build your weapons to have the most advantage to each faction, or you may wish to build casually. Assuming you want to build for advantage, it goes like this. For Grineer, build for puncture, toxin, and/or corrosive for the armor. For Corpus, build for impact, cold, and/or magnetic for the shields. For Infested, build for slash, heat, and/or gas. And if you're the casual player, just go straight for either corrosive or viral. Now let's use the Bratton as an example for building. What you have here is an automatic weapon with an average fire rate. I put on my main damage and multi-shot mods on by default, as you do. By the way, melee has attack speed instead of multi-shot. Now with that out of the way, the values I'm looking for in particular are critical chance, critical damage, and status chance. Status chance is the chance that your weapon will activate a status effect, or proc, from any of your damage types. The most likely damage type to proc is always the biggest amount of damage. just like the damage in your relationship with Trinity. That was cold damage. Or was it magnetic? I mean, she was attracted to dudes with big throbbing bills. Or maybe it's heat because it made your blood boil hotter than Ember's damage output. Anyways, as a new player, do not worry about status. Ignore it completely. Because collecting all the essentials will take ages if you maybe don't have a buddy to trade you some spares. So for the Bratton, I see that I can mod for critical. Now at 30% chance, about 1 in every 3 bullets will land a critical hit at 3.5x damage. And good thing it has a decent enough fire rate to do the job. What you're looking for is good output. 30% chance on a high fire rate weapon is good. For a lower fire rate weapon, it has to have a higher base critical chance to work with. Take the Dread for example. You may think that 125% critical chance is a bit much, but remember, she slept with 3 dudes. And if you're gonna go all stalker on their asses, no amount of critical chance is too much. And if you're feeling good about your build, add a fire rate mod to fuck them up even faster. Well, now with that, you should be good to go. Figure out what values you need to make your equipment better. It requires a bit of study, or you can be lazy like the rest of us and look up specific builds online. But this episode is mostly just a guideline for your building sense. Don't worry about maxing your main damage mods all the way to rank 10. That's something you can deal with when you have more resources to spare. Just leave Serration and Hornet Strike at rank 5 or something. That's decent enough for now. Work towards higher mastery ranks to not only get more weapons, but to get better weapons. Hop off the Boltor, you're a big boy now. Time to put on those big boy shoes, students. Stay tuned, and thanks for watching Warframe Stigma. 3,